We continue our May We Thank You tour with actually our presenting sponsors this week. Boss Services are joining us here, and this month I should say, our dedication to our military men and women, saying thank you for what you do. I mentioned Boss Services being the presenting sponsor, raising the standard, and we are raising the standard here with our friend Jeff Streets. Jeff, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm amazing. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing awesome. It's great to see you again. I love the fact that we get to chat again here this year and talk a little bit more about your service. And you've had quite a storied history of service in the Marines. And let's talk a little bit first and foremost about your time in the Marines. When you first started, what was your goal in going into the Marines? What were you hoping to be able to do?
When I first started, my goal was to do 4 years, get some kind of skill, and get out. Yeah.
Get in and get out and call it good. And how did things actually work out for you?
Well, so I did 4 years as an artillery. Sorry, let me see. It was a towed artillery system technician, which is a fancy word for a mechanic that works on one gun system. So I did that for 3 years or so, and I was looking into transitioning out of the Marine Corps, and they said, your job translates to farm equipment mechanic. And I said, that's great. I don't want to be a mechanic anymore. So I looked at other options and ended up re-enlisting.
Okay. So when you re-enlisted, what did you end up going to? What was the thing that was a step up from the farm machinery mechanic?
So explosive ordnance disposal technician, which is a super fancy word for bomb squad. So
there you go.
Yeah.
All right. So Bob Squad is where you ended up going, and you recently retired within a couple years here. How long did you actually end up serving then?
I did 20 years and 2 weeks. I retired 2017.
You wanted just to push that extra 2 weeks, didn't you?
They made me.
Yeah.
You have to retire on the first of the month, so I had to get 2 weeks.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that makes sense. Well, let's talk a little bit about, again, some of the experiences that you've had when it comes to your service, because, obviously doing bomb ordnance disposal, that is something that, maybe not necessarily as much we know here. I know when I hear that phrasing, I always think about overseas, but tell us a little bit about your, time doing that job.
Yeah, there's so much more to it than just the combat portion of it. So there's bases, every base has a EOD team that responds to suspicious packages, just like, the local police would have one, or the state police, whoever. So they're, force protection for all of the bases around the world. They are supporting the Secret Service because the Secret Service does not have their own EOD techs. They're supporting units that are doing recovery of POW MIAs around the world. They're doing just mass weapons and munitions disposal left over from World War II. We've done that in Australia and Papua New Guinea and those surrounding little islands there. So there's a lot more to it than just the go to combat and respond to roadside bombs.
It sounds like it. That's one of the things that I never really realized, that I guess from our conversations, how you have one direction that you think you're going to be going with bomb ordnance disposal, removing these, deadly items from action, we'll say. But then the fact that you have the opportunity to give closure to families by going and finding remains. So talk to me about that. Did you know that was something that was a possibility in this role before you actually signed up for this new, re-enlistment?
Yeah. So oddly enough, that's what attracted me to it. We, when I joined the EOD field, we were not in war. It was peacetime, and it was pre, 9/11, which, that's the way back. But what attracted me was a guy had just come back from North Korea, and he was recovering remains from the Korean War, which, is a super unique situation that, I did not get to go to North Korea. But yeah, that's what attracted me to it. So I was signed up to go to North Korea, and North Korea got angry at us again and canceled the mission. So they rolled me over to Germany mission. So I went to Germany, and I recovered remains from I want to say a P-53 Lightning, if I'm remembering correctly, that was shot down in deep into, what is that? West Germany was the Soviet controlled side, but it was shot down doing a strafing run on a railroad, and it crashed into a field, and the farmers slowly started seeing, plane pieces and all that. And then the pilot's daughter actually did all of the research and brought it to the unit that recovers remains and said, here's everything I found. So they did their research, and then we went out there and dug up this farmer's field for probably 3 weeks or so, recovered a lot of plane wreckage and some bone fragments. And we actually recovered enough bone fragments so they could do the DNA test, take him off the MIA list, and he is now buried at Arlington.
Wow. What was it like from a family standpoint? Do you even know to be able to have that closure?
So yeah, the pilot's daughter that did that research, she flew out on her own dime and stayed at the hotel with us. She was at the work site every day with us, and we kept in contact a little bit. It's a long process on the back end. So it takes, they have to do DNA tests and all that, and process everything to make sure that it's correct. So by the time all of that was done and she had the funeral, I was deployed, but she did, send an invite to the funeral saying, hey, we're finally having a funeral for my father. You're invited and all that, but I couldn't make it.
Yeah. You're a little bit busy at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously huge to be able to do that. What was the equipment? What was the process to be able to go and do this? Did you guys have to haul your own equipment? Did you use equipment from, some provider in Germany then?
So yeah, there's a unit in Hawaii that runs all of this, and it's the Joint POW MIA Full Accounting Command, which is a mouthful it's an acronym inside an acronym. But they fly out usually about 5 teams at a time. And we take a cargo plane with all of our equipment, and it's run like an archaeological dig site. So there's an archaeologist on the team, and then there's a specialist for whatever they need. So I was there as the explosive expert. So if there was any bombs, or we found machine guns and some bullets and stuff like that. Then there's a comm guy, a translator, a plane specialist that can identify all the bits and pieces of that particular plane that we're digging up. So just whatever they need for the makeup of the team. And we bring most of what we need with us. We rented some trucks over there. When I went and did the same thing in Laos, we didn't rent trucks. We flew because we were in the jungle. So we flew to the site every day with a, locally rented helicopter, and pilot they wouldn't let me fly. So yeah, and then everything you grid off the entire area, and you dig it up a square at a time, and they take note of everything that comes out of that square. You put it in a bucket, you put it through a screen, and you filter out everything, and you pick out the bones and the rocks and the all that good stuff. So yeah, it's a pretty in-depth process, and some sites take 3 to 4 trips out there to dig up the entire site.
Wow. Seems like a lot of work, but obviously for to be able to take somebody off of the MIA list is huge. So that's pretty cool. Now, we talked about that, and that's great, but you mentioned your deployment. You mentioned some of the service in action too. What was that like for you first setting foot into that area where you actually ended up serving? Was it something, were you in a war zone, I guess?
Yeah, I did the liberation of Iraq. We spread a lot of freedom and democracy there in 2003, I think that was. And then I came back and turned right around and went to Afghanistan in 2004. And I spent probably 3 or 4 months on the ground there in the mountains. We worked a lot with the local Afghans there, the Afghan National Army. And Afghanistan is probably one of the prettiest countries I've been to. Like, the mountains up there are amazing. If it was safe, I'd move there, but for obvious reasons, I'm not going to. And that was, I mean, it was, for the most part, that was uneventful. We did a lot of hearts and minds stuff there. We dug a lot of wells, gave a lot of stuff to villages, and talked to a lot of village elders, ate a lot of goat, and all that. And then I came back and I went to Iraq in '07, and that was really the first. I'm gonna say that was the first true combat that I've been in. Like I was carrying a gun and all that stuff and all the other stuff and in the other two deployments. But '07 was the first time I'd, actually been in a firefight, and I'd, been in vehicles that were blown up and gotten blown up around me and all that good stuff. So that was the first real, I'm going to say combat experience, even though it was my third trip. So
I love that how nonchalantly you say ate a lot of goat. It's like super casual, casual. So the first time, again, getting a firefight, thrown your way, how did how did you react to that?
So yeah, like it's a funny story. We were doing route clearing operations, and we would go out at night and just route clearance all night, and then sleep all day. And we did that 3 weeks in a row. And then I did what they called 9-line response. So I actually responded to other units that had found bombs on the side of the road, and then, saved them. And then we did that probably 3-4 of those a night. We'd do that for a week. So on one of the route clearing ops, the vehicle in front of me had gotten blown up, and it was a single person driver, basically a giant minesweeper. So it got blown up, and they're designed for, to withstand the blast. Everything gets blown off. The vehicle's disabled. The driver's still in it, but, he's safe. He gets on the radio, "Hey, we're good. Come get me when you can." So I get out, and I've got to sweep up to the vehicle to make sure that it's safe to go in there and pull the driver out and then start recovery operations on the vehicle. So I get out with my teammate, and as soon as we get out, we get over on the side of the road and we start sweeping with our metal detectors, and we're looking, and somebody starts shooting at us. So we jump in the ditch, and we're laying there, and all I can hear is the gunfire, but I don't know where it's coming from. So I'm laying next to him, and his name was Tim. I said, "Tim, do you know where they're shooting at us from?" And he looks, he's like, "I have no idea." And I said, "Man, all I see is a giant open field in front of me. I sure hope they're not shooting from that field." And he's like, "Yeah, me too." He's like, "I'm out." And he just gets up and runs back to the truck. So now I'm laying there, and I didn't get my rifle out of the truck either. So I've just got a pistol. So even if I have, even if I could see where they're shooting from, I can't return fire. So I'm just laying in the ditch, just contemplating, should I get up and get in the truck, or should I just assume that they're not shooting from in front of me? And the crew serve guns on the trucks are returning fire because they see where it's coming from, but I can't see them. So I laid there for a couple minutes, and then they said, "Yeah, everything's good. Nobody's shooting anymore." So I just got up and continued on. But yeah, just a lot of lessons learned in that quick 2 minutes.
I can imagine. Bring the rifle.
Yeah,
always got to bring the rifle.
Get the rifle out of the truck. Don't be lazy. Get your rifle out of the truck.
Wow, that's pretty intense. And obviously, I'm sure that there's a ton more stories that you have like that. But the fact that you shared that one and shared a little bit of the remaining, I guess, recovery missions that you've been on, it's incredible just to think about over your 20-year career, all of those things that you've been able to do and be able to see. And the point of this tour is to say thank you for your service. And we are, obviously grateful for not only your service for our country, but supporting our May We Thank You tour, just so we can continue to spread those messages and those stories from other military veterans here from the United States. So I want to, I guess, wrap up the conversation today by asking you, somebody comes to you and says, "Jeff, thinking about joining the Marines, or I'm thinking about joining really any branch of military." What do you tell them? What's your advice?
Recruiters are going to lie to you. I'm just kidding. It's a good career path. Like it's been absolutely amazing. I would do it all again in a heartbeat. I wouldn't change a thing. So I would say just do it for nothing else, just for the experience. Like just go out and do 4 years and get that experience under you.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of people that say that too. That there's a lot of people who only did, one tour. We'll say they only signed up once, and it's still the best thing that they ever did, and that they wish they could have continued. So that is one of those phrases that seems to be, I guess, synonymous with serving in the military. So Jeff, anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I think that's it. We'll share more stories later.
I like it.
Got stories for days.
We'll meet up another time after the
Yeah.
tour. How about that? Excellent. All right. The May We Thank You Tour presented by Boss Services, raising the standard.